Kids are great. I have two myself, and raising them is one of the most rewarding and challenging endeavors many of us will undertake. For those parents with a child with a disability, this is even more so. Early childhood is a critical time for learning and belonging, and having the right supports in place early can make a difference that is lasting for children and their families. Last year, our Early Childhood Services program saw 582 children receive direct support, 83 children receive support from a behavioral consultant, and 625 staff in daycare centers across the city of Toronto were supported through training. In this episode, I sat down with two of our colleagues from Early Childhood Services team, Sarosh and Arissa, who work as early childhood consultants. We talked about what inclusion really looks like in childcare settings, the challenges families and educators face, and why early, responsive supports really matter. I'm grateful for the insight and dedication, as well as the heart Sarosh and Arissa bring to their work, and I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. All right, really happy to be joined today by two of Community Living Toronto's early childhood service team members, Arissa and Sarosh. Arissa and Sarosh, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Great. Now we're doing this as we're recording this and releasing it. We're a few weeks ahead of Inclusive Education Month, and every year in February, the province takes time to recognize progress that's been made in inclusive education, what the goals that we're trying to achieve with that particular policy goal are, and also to recognize where we're coming up short. The focus of that tends to be on, sort of public school and high school and post-secondary. And sometimes we forget or don't put enough spotlight on early childhood services and daycare services and all that. And on this podcast over the years, we've had a number of parents talk about how challenging it can be from the time of a diagnosis in a hospital, where somebody's diagnosed with intellectual disability, or down the road they might receive an autism diagnosis later in life, and then how that journey is different when you're supporting a child with a disability around accessing services in the community, which is where you guys come in, and our early childhood services team comes in. So really looking forward to this kind of conversation to talk about what you do, how you provide it, and what are some of the things that you've learned in the role. However, before we dive in, maybe you could both give us a little bit of background on yourself, how you got involved in this work, what you love about it. Arissa, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think when I was thinking about what kind of career I wanted to go to, I really reflected on what my family dynamics are. So I come from a really big family. I'm like the oldest cousin, oldest sibling. So I took a chance on myself and just decided to go into early childhood education. And so I have a diploma in early childhood education, and then I furthered it by getting my early childhood studies degree. And so through working in the field and learning about childcare, I also found out that we can support families on a bigger level through childcare by being resource consultants.
Right. Okay, great. Sarosh, sorry, now I'm messing up your name. Sarosh, am I saying it right?
Sarosh, yes.
Beautiful. Correct me if I say it incorrectly. Again, I'm recovering from a cold, so my words are a little messed up. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved in this work?
So similar, when I was finishing my high school and kind of thinking what career I want to do, I actually had a early childhood center in my community where I used to volunteer. And through that, I actually gained my interest in early childhood education and made me want to pursue it as a career. So I did my early childhood diploma first, and I just felt like it wasn't enough for me. Like I wanted to do something more. So then after my 2 years diploma, I continued doing my bachelor's in community rehabilitation and disability studies. After I got my degree, I was heavily involved in childcare in different capacities, in different roles. I worked as an educator, I worked as a management, as admin, and I gained a lot of experience. And then I went and did my master's in early childhood studies.
Right.
And then I graduated in 2023 and not too long ago. And then I was still heavily involved in childcare setting, in private school setting, in different roles. And I kind of I felt like I wanted to expand my impact. I felt like I have a lot of knowledge and I wanted to kind of give it a full shot, like use my full expertise and knowledge. And then I came across this role of resource consultant, which really seems like something I've been wanting to do, something similar work where I still get to meet with families, I still get to help educators, I still get to be part of childcare settings and just have a broader impact. And so that's how I joined Community Living Toronto as a resource consultant.
Okay. That's great. So very similar paths for both of you. It's sort of a passion that you've been able to pursue with your education and then into your careers as well. That's excellent. So Community Living Toronto is a member of a group of organizations that provide a service in Toronto, sort of under the Every Child Belongs banner, right? So, and Living Toronto is one of the providers in that network, and we're an organization that covers childcare centers, supports them across the city. Maybe you can talk about what the role of an early childhood consultant is within Community Living Toronto, or if there's anything specific about Community Living Toronto versus the Every Child Belongs model in general. Sarosh, I'll start with you. What's the role? What do you do?
I will describe our role is very multifaceted. It is no 2 days look exactly same, and I think that is the beauty of our work that we do. That is what we love because it involves a lot of things. It is like a huge scope of things, from helping educators in the childcare setting, helping children, helping them to set them up for success, to full participation in a classroom setting, working alongside, centers, and then parents as well. Parents are a huge component of what we do. Connecting with parents, building relationship with parents, helping them, because for a lot of parents, it comes across when they sign up for this service, maybe sometimes they're unsure of what this is. And,
Right.
Having to meet somebody like me, they want to get to know me to trust them with their child. And sometimes parents come with different feelings, different emotions, because, they might be at the very early stage where their child may have just received a diagnosis, or they just feel like, why does our child need support? So our job is communicating with parents, helping them connect with other resources that are in the community, and just explaining them that they're not alone and we are there to help them, and to kind of start the interventions and supports early. So a lot of collaboration is what we do, is involved in our day-to-day collaboration with other agencies, other organizations who are providing support around these areas. Collaboration with childcare educators. Educating to educators is also a huge component of what we do. As a resource consultant, we are continuously, investing time in our own education as well. We're doing trainings that are offered by Citywide. We are also doing different workshops to broaden our knowledge so that we can translate that into childcare settings. So we do a lot of trainings for our educators around the areas where they would feel supported. And a lot of participation through like teamwork, collaboration is something that we do on everyday basis. So I would describe our day to day. What we do is very multifaceted. It has a lot of different roles and responsibilities. I like to say we always wear different hats depending on where we're helping and which area we're helping. But yeah, it's very much hands-on.
Great
experience.
Arissa, maybe you can pick, you talked about multifaceted and wearing different hats, and sort of every day sounds like it's different. Pick a recent day and describe what that was like for you going into a number of childcare centers in a day. What specifically were you doing to support the childcare center and the child within that center?
So, a great example is, as resource consultants, face value, a person may know, okay, we go into the childcare centers, we observe the child, we interact with the child, and then we leave by giving strategies to the educators on what to continue until our next visit to support
So
the child's development.
with that, what's an example of something you might see from a child would cause you to have a conversation with one of the early childhood educators around things that they could improve or change? What's an example of something?
So let's say like new behaviors that may come up. So if I'm working with a child for their self-regulation,
Hmm.
maybe initially it was because the child um, was disrupting play of their peers, and
Right.
then they got better with that behavior, and that behavior stopped. But then a new behavior comes up where maybe they're taking food off of their peers' plates during meal times,
Right.
or they're wanting to run out of the classroom. So when we kind of see like a shift in behaviors, as consultants, we come in and we look. We come in with fresh eyes and we look at that to see, okay, the child, we've found strategies that worked, and now there's new things the child needs support with.
Right.
Let's work as a team to come up with strategies on how we can support and either like prevent those behaviors or put things in place in the program that may prevent the behaviors from happening. So I think that's where Sarosh is saying multifaceted, because not only do we come in to directly support the child, but we're also there to look at the program as a whole. And sometimes we also do environmental assessments to see how we
Okay.
can adjust how the classroom may look to better support the child. And also supporting the capacity of the educators. So again, going back to multifaceted, yes, on paper, resource consultants, but some days maybe we're really working as a listening ear or like more of a social worker figure for the educators to support also their mental and emotional health in the fields.
So, Sarush, when you come into a center, and I'm assuming that a lot of the early childhood educators you're working with have got a lot of experience, they've got a lot of dedication and passion, and they come in with a pretty good level of knowledge around supporting kids with different needs. So
Mhm.
you're really helping, as Arissa said, the like a second set of eyes, a new perspective on stuff. What are some of the typical things that you'll recommend to an early childhood educator that they may not have considered, that may help a situation improve for a child that's exhibiting some issues that are getting in the way of their day at a childcare center?
As an early childhood educator, even myself, I'll speak for myself because, with a lot of experience, I've also had experience being in the classroom. So I completely understand how the educators are working day in and day out, being in that classroom. And so the classroom is already like, it's busy, it's fun, there's so many things happening. So although the educators come with a wealth of knowledge, sometimes, it takes they may not see things because they're seeing it every day. So that's
Right.
when my role comes
Yeah.
in as a resource consultant. And I kind of share with them, I talk with them, okay, this is an area of concern, or this is where, you need some help. What are some of the things that you've already done? So I start with that to see, what they have already done, because I don't want to also backtrack and give them strategies that have already been implemented. So then they'll tell me, oh, for example, for a child who is having some difficulty with transitions, when they go outside, the child doesn't want to come inside. When they're inside, the child doesn't want to go outside. So with transitions, so they will say, oh, we've tried doing heads up. We give child a heads up. Okay, you have 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, we will go inside. I said, great. Have you tried setting up timers? Maybe that child may need that visual stimulation. Yes, you're saying it, which is great, but then having that visual thing also helps.
So the
Or
timer being the
the
visual
visual,
cue.
exactly.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Or even sometimes a lot of the educators have little visual cards with them. They're hanging, like, they carry it with them for children who may, need help with expressive communication. So
Hmm.
the visuals are really great way to help a child so they can point at what they need. And so sometimes educators may use those visual cards, sometimes timers help, sometimes ringing a bell could be as simple as that. So I can just along those lines, just modifying things. Or I would give them a strategy on maybe a transition object that, when it's time to go inside, maybe you can give a little ball to the little Johnny so that he can hold on to it. And
Right.
that gives him a signal that it's time for me to go inside. So things along those lines, and they're like, "Oh, we didn't think about that." Although they did think about it, they did have that that they were in the right direction where they were giving heads up to the child, but it's just giving them a little bit tweaks here and there. Just modification can help, because what I always emphasize in childcare is with parents, with educators, is like, it's every child is so unique, and
Right.
their strengths are so unique, and the way they may communicate or they may share is very unique. So it's always what works for the child.
Hmm.
For some children, maybe giving them heads up would be great way to, give them heads up that we're going for a transition. But versus some children may need different modes. Could be visual, could be just hearing a bell ring, to
Yeah.
kind of get them going for transition.
Okay. Um,
Mhm.
Arissa, when a parent has a diagnosis that
Mhm.
might come, if it's an autism diagnosis, that might come at age, what, 2 or 3 or later, maybe earlier, but usually not, typically not, right? It usually comes around that sort of 2 or 3 years old. Um, or they've got a diagnosis earlier in hospital or whatever, and as they're getting ready to prepare to go to childcare settings, there's a lot of unknowns. I raised two
Mhm.
kids. They're now 18 and 20. I remember still vividly the time, trying to find a childcare center, dropping them off, putting my son in the room behind the little baby gate and him crying and saying, what are you doing? Don't leave me here," kind of thing. It's anxiety creating for a parent. What
Absolutely.
what what advice do you have for parents that might be listening that are about to go down that journey or have just started and are preparing to get involved with a childcare center? What advice would you have for them as they prepare?
Yeah, so I'm sure Sarosh can chime in as well because,
Yeah.
the climate and need for childcare has changed so much over even the last 5 years, maybe even
Okay.
less than that. So I would say for any families who are even expecting, it's never too early to start looking into childcare. The wait lists have got quite long. So it's good to just give a call, even just put a name down. And, by the time they call you, if you don't need it, you can say no. But if you do need it, the option is there.
So start
Um,
early. Start early is a
Start
big tip.
early, yeah. That's the climate nowadays. It's quite long. And childcare, I think what's really critical is you want to make sure the environment is built for your child, right? One of the first things I always look at is, are the cubbies the child's height? Are things accessible for your child to build their independence, and autonomy when you're not there? Um, what else, Sarosh, for
Yeah,
childcare?
just overall, when you are selecting a childcare, it also is like, how do you feel as a parent when you enter the
Yes,
setting?
yes.
Do you feel comfortable? How is
Trust your instincts kind of
exactly,
thing. Is it? Yeah.
trust your instinct, because I know it's a big decision, leaving your child, your precious little one, in somebody else's hand in a different setting, and that
Mhm.
too at a very early age. I'm not a parent, but working in childcare, I see so many parents. There hasn't been a day when a new parent has brought in their child for the first day and they don't leave without crying. They
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
have tears, and I always hold their hand and I'm like, "You're not alone. It's okay.
Mhm.
Your child is going to be okay." And that's the validation sometimes parents need too. They just want to hear it from somebody that, yes, my child is going to be okay. So you want to choose a childcare where you get that warmth, you get that acceptance, you
Absolutely.
get that welcoming feeling. You feel like you belong in this place. and you feel, okay, this is a great environment for my child to grow. Those are some of the things that, I always highlight.
Hmm.
Oftentimes connecting with parents, oftentimes connecting with educators can also be helpful, just to prepare themselves and kind of build that relationship from early on. Because a lot of the times, what I have noticed in my practice is that children, they pick up on their parents' energy. And
Okay.
kids know, because for all, like, anywhere you take the child for childcare, it's a new setting for them. They don't know anybody there. It's a completely new environment for them, so they always look up to their parents to see how they're feeling, and that's the energy the child attracts. So I always tell parents to stay positive, tell the children. And it's always nice to, when it comes to that point when you have a spot and you're ready to take your child to the new setting, it's always nice to talk to them in advance that, oh, tomorrow we're going to be going to a new school. You're going to have so many friends to play with. You can maybe share teacher's name.
Preparing people
Just
for what's
prepare
coming.
them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
think all of that really plays a huge role.
Yeah. The piece, that's a great point around, and I think sometimes as parents, we forget this, that kids pick up on your energy. So if you're anxious, if you're nervous, if you're scared, if you're not sure about this, even as you try and I've since learned this with conversations with my own kids, they knew really well what I was thinking or what I am thinking, even though I don't think I'm putting that out there. So uh, reminder to parents, as you're going to places and you're anxious, make sure that your anxiety is not sort of influencing how your child is going to experience that environment. Do you have any tips for parents on how to avoid that? Having that sort of get in the way or be a barrier for them in experiencing childcare.
I think what's always great and something that I know us consultants always recommend is um, create like a social story or have a lot of positive conversations of the change in routine.
So, what's a social story?
So, a social story is a personalized story that reflects the child's day. So, for example, you're going to take a picture of your child and maybe the front of the childcare that they're going to, and the title is going to be Sarosh's first day at childcare or
Right.
Sarosh's day at childcare. And, even before maybe you add pictures of childcare, you're going to add pictures of, we're going to have breakfast at home, we're going to get changed, we're going to go in the car, and we're going to arrive at childcare. As
Okay.
simple as that. And we find that children are more receptive when they hear their name and they see themselves in these stories. And it builds for better connections too, because they'll see these visuals of what their day may look like and what they're doing. And then they're going to live that and make those
Right.
connections.
Okay. That's excellent. Um, you also work with some children who may not yet have a diagnosis. Um, can you talk about under what circumstances would that come up? Like what's behind that, Sarosh?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of times, we work with children. I'm sure Arissa also have children who don't have diagnosis, but a request was made to help, that child in that childcare setting. So we often go in. Our first step is always connecting with the parents. Kind of starting that relationship building where parents get to know what we provide, like what is the service, because a lot of the times families are not aware of the service. So
Mhm.
educating them about what we do and kind of getting to know from parents about the child and vice versa, like for them to give them an opportunity to get to know me as a resource consultant, have that open conversation. And then parents will express. We also have during the meeting that we call it service intake meeting. And during that, we also have the childcare director, or supervisor, as well as that child's teacher part of the meeting as well. So they can also share some information, because I'm new
Right.
to the child, and so I'm trying to gather all the information before I go in and do some observations and get to see myself, get to meet the child, and get to see, where I can be best helpful.
And
So when
yeah.
yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so your role there is not to make a diagnosis,
Right.
but
We do not make
the childcare center may identify some things that they're seeing with a particular child, and they might wonder, maybe we could get some help on this.
Mhm.
So you would come in, do some observations,
Right.
make some recommendations around trying to make the childcare day go
Yes.
smoother, the experience be
Yes.
better, and then some conversations with parents that may lead them to do some further follow-up or not.
Exactly.
So it's not dependent on, you have a diagnosis, then you can be involved. It could very much be, something's not working correctly, or you see some stuff you want to have looked at, and the childcare center can reach out as well.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And this is exactly, Brad, how you described is what we do. And oftentimes, that will lead parents to look into further maybe assessment or anything like that.
Right.
So for us, it's just that we were called because the child needs support. And we always tell families to, it is okay to ask for support.
Yep.
Support does not mean that there is something wrong. Support just means that you are being responsive to your child's need. The childcare setting is being responsive to child's needs, so we can maybe perhaps start those interventions early to build that confidence for that child, to give them that skill set to thrive in the environment.
Yeah.
So this is exactly, yes, what we do.
Good. So
And I think, sorry, can I just
yeah,
add
go ahead,
something
please,
to that,
please.
if you don't mind? And I think that's what's great about the Every Child Belongs model, is because it's really on a needs basis.
Right.
It's not a requirement to have that diagnosis. And so we really work with what the child's current capabilities and challenges are, and build up their development through there. But with that said, we are also often on the front line of educating parents on next steps if they want to find out more about their child's development, and if a diagnosis is somewhere there for them.
Right. Okay. I'm going to ask you about, this is work that is very rewarding at times, right? I'm sure you, especially working with young children, you're seeing progress, and progress can sometimes come very quickly when you're involved. So maybe I'd love to hear a story from each of you around where you were involved with the child. And you're not going to mention the name, but just a situation where you're involved with a child where it went really well, and what that was like for the parents and for you, and then for the child. Arissa, I'll get you to go first if you've got somebody in mind.
Yeah. So I love this question because I actually just closed the case with a child because they've gotten to a point where they're very successful and independent, and our support was no longer needed. But for further context, when I met him, grandparents were the primary caregivers. He's the only child in the household. And so there were a lot of behaviors that he experienced at childcare, to the point of maybe like swiping the tables, cleanup activities that his peers did, constantly wanting to elope and like leave the classroom. And if he couldn't go through one exit, he would try another, and just very prolonged periods of distress, up to 20 minutes. He was in kindergarten. And so for the last 3 years, I was working with him to support his self-regulation. So part of that was helping him recognize when you feel angry, what can you do? What can you do to calm your body down? Or if you would like to play with your friends, what can you say instead of entering play disruptly? Or if a friend says no to you, what can you communicate to tell them that you would like a turn later when they're done? Or if that makes you mad, what can you do instead, right? So strategies like, maybe I need to count to 10 first. Maybe I need to get a teacher for help. Or maybe I just need to walk away. So things like that. And so I started with him in kindergarten. He just started grade 2 this year, and we closed his case because he's very capable now. When he's upset, I was seeing him use his strategies on his own without
Okay.
us reminding him. So he would walk away or go choose another activity or use his words to communicate that he didn't like that. Initiating conversations with peers really increased with him. He was able to ask them, can I have a turn, or would you like to play with me? And, we started with a child who had no sense of belonging in the classroom to a child who really felt that they had a place and they finally had friends, and there were activities that they really enjoyed in the
Well,
program.
that's excellent, because one of our vision is for a place where people belong but are also valued, and it sounds like that's the journey that
Absolutely.
this young kid took. And it's cool. It's interesting that you said so. The child still had that sense of distress, sense of getting anxious about stuff, angry, whatever it might be, but so you didn't make that go away. There were strategies created that helped him know how to appropriately manage that, right? So, which
Yes,
is I think a good reminder that you're not always trying to extinguish the feeling. You're trying to get people to be able, or kids to be able to know how to appropriately express it.
absolutely.
Excellent. Sarush, what do you have a story that stands out for you?
Yes, for sure. I had this again young boy. He was in kindergarten, and he was transitioning from another childcare setting where he was working actively with the resource consultant, and then later parents wanted to. They were seeing the differences, like they could see how this is helping their child, so they wanted to continue the service at the
Right.
other childcare location, and I was. You know, privilege. I always say it's a very privileged work to help children. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel I was there to help this child. Was a lot for him also along the lines of self-regulation. But now the child is completely transforming or transitioning to a new environment. So
Hmm.
it can be a lot for a child
Yeah.
and how to navigate those feelings. There were a lot of mixed emotions. And so repeatedly, we were seeing more frequent behaviors just because the child didn't have the right tools and strategies of how to, help himself. And I did exactly that. I went in and, I did some observations. I helped the child, again, interacting with the child, connecting with the educators because we only go like once or twice a month. It's the educator who are there every single day, Monday to
Right.
Friday. So it's very important to always have that line of communication open with the educators and explaining them what to do, how to do. Oftentimes, I model those strategies in the classroom so that the educators can see how I'm implementing those strategies. Because it's very important that you're not implementing those strategies when the child is already having that behavior. It's when
Right.
the child is calm, he's in a good mood, and he's playing. How can you slowly integrate those strategies so the child doesn't reach to that point? And so those are some of the things that I help with. And, the child was doing so well that
Good.
parents felt satisfied and comfortable, and they said that they're ready to close the service.
Great.
So
Okay.
it was definitely whenever I hear like I witness such stories and like I see this, my work and the impact that it's making, um, it always puts a smile on my face.
Yeah, I bet.
It's a very fulfilling feeling to be able to help these little children and the families. It just everyone's efforts are being recognized, and they pay off well at the end.
Great, great. Um, Last question for you both. We started out by talking about, Inclusive Education Month is coming up. Um, Community Living Ontario released a report a few months ago that really highlights some of the challenges and barriers that students are facing in school. And we tend to hear a lot of negative stuff about what's happening in the education system, and by extension in the early childhood world as well. What Just to ask you a question, maybe a little more optimistically, hopefully. What gives you hope? Where are you seeing progress? what gets you excited in the morning when you get in your car and head to work? Arissa?
Um, I think for me, it's just going to the center and you're greeted by the educators and you're also greeted by the children, right? You may not work with all the children there, but because we're there on a regular basis, they're always there to greet you. And so just going into that environment and seeing how supported it is for the children
Mm-hmm.
who were referred to us, that, on especially on like the gray winter days, just going into that really puts a big smile on my face, at least in the morning, and really sets me up for when I go into that consultant mood. And because it's such an awesome play environment too, it's being able to interact with children on that level and get to know them through their interest and through their life at childcare.
Excellent, excellent. Sarush, what brings you hope every day?
I think I echo what Arissa said. And then in addition to that, I think it's the awareness piece. It's knowing that more and more people are aware that there are supports available to help children, to help childcare setting. And that just really, brings me hope. And that makes me want to continue what I'm doing because I know that the work that we're doing is making a difference day by day, slowly, but yet it is. And that's what it counts. It's the awareness of educating other people around what we're doing, be it families, be it educators, or even other people in the community. I have so many friends who ask me what I do. And when I explain them, I'm an early childhood consultant or resource consultant, their next question is, what do you do?
What is
Because,
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
and it is always trying to, explain them. And it's just doing so. I feel like, oh, wow, I just educated 2 more people today. And so it's that piece of awareness of sharing your knowledge is something that keeps me going. And I love that how families are also now, also looking into it and doing their own research. I actually had a family that I met last week
Mm-hmm.
for a service intake meeting. And as I was talking to them, sometimes you don't know, how much parents know. So in that intake meeting, we're kind of asking them
Yeah.
questions
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
see, where they need help. And it was just so interesting that families like, yeah, I've been reading about this. I've been doing research about this. And they using all these like neurodiversity and like all these words. And I'm like, wow, that is
It that is a
incredible.
that is a good point. It's so easy to get information. Now, there's always a risk that
Yes,
the information you're getting is wrong, but it's
exactly.
great that
Yeah.
people have access to so much information, and having people
Mhm.
like you both to help them sort through what is the most relevant for their own
Yes.
child is a real gift.
Yes,
Yeah, that's so
absolutely.
true. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, Sarosh, because it is such a huge component of our job. And, I always say it's great that there's so many things to look into and reach out to, but for parents, it can also be very overwhelming. So
Yeah.
it's it's really rewarding that we can be that person for them to help reduce those resources and really hone down on what may be very beneficial for them and their child.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Well, thank you both for doing this. It's a good primer for us as we get ready for
Yeah.
Inclusive Education Month, and really good to hear that the work that you're doing and see the impact that you're having every day with childcare centers really across the city. So the impact of the program and your staff team is significant and long lasting. So thank you both, and thanks for taking half an hour or so to chat with us about what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. I hope that this reaches all the people and they get
Mhm.
to know more about our work that we do and hopefully find it beneficial.
Great. Thank you. I'm sure it will. Thank you for listening, watching, and sharing. We release a new episode of Community Chats on the 15th and the 30th of each month, so don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date.